In the peaceful village of Uyo, there lived a young woman named Abasi. She was the most beautiful girl anyone had ever seen, with skin that glowed like the morning sun and a smile that could light up the darkest night. But her beauty was not the only thing that made her special. Abasi was kind, gentle, and loved by everyone. One day, her parents announced that she was to marry Itim, the prince from the neighboring village of Ensit. It was a great honor, and the whole village celebrated with singing and dancing. Abasi, though nervous, was excited to meet the man who would become her husband. She hoped he would be kind and love her as much as her family did. The journey to Ensit would take a full day. Because of the long distance, only 3 people were chosen to go: Abasi, her maidservant Mfon, and her younger sister Ini. Mfon was supposed to care for Abasi during the trip, while Ini came along to keep her company. The morning of the journey was bright and clear. The villagers gathered to send Abasi off, giving her blessings and advice. Her mother hugged her tightly. "Be safe, my daughter," she said, "and listen to Ini. She may be young, but her heart is wise." Abasi nodded, smiling at her little sister. Ini, though just 14 years old, was sharp and quick to notice things others might miss. She had always been protective of Abasi, even though she was much younger. As the 3 girls began their journey, they chatted happily. Abasi carried a small basket filled with fruits and bread for the road, while Mfon carried the gifts that would be presented to Prince Etim. Mfon seemed cheerful, laughing and joking, but deep inside, her heart was burning with jealousy. Why should Abasi have everything? Mfon thought to herself. Her beauty, her kindness, and now a prince for a husband? She doesn't deserve it. That life should be mine. But Mfon didn't show her true feelings. She smiled at Abasi and acted like a loyal servant. Ini, however, felt uneasy. Something about Mfon's smile didn't seem right, but she couldn't explain it. So she kept her thoughts to herself and stayed close to her sister. The road to Ensit was long and dusty, but the girls enjoyed the journey. They passed through green forests and open fields, the air filled with the sounds of birds and rustling leaves. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the girls decided to take a break under a large tree by the side of the road. "It's a beautiful day," Abasi said, stretching her arms. "I can't wait to meet Prince Etim. Do you think he will like me?" "Of course he will," Ini said, smiling. "You are the most beautiful person in the world." Mfon said nothing, but her mind was racing. She had a plan, an evil plan, and she was waiting for the right moment to act. Though the journey was pleasant, Ini couldn't shake a strange feeling in her heart. Mfon had been unusually quiet since they left the village, and her smiles didn't seem as warm as before. Ini was too young to fully understand jealousy, but she could sense something wasn't right. She thought about saying something to Abasi, but decided against it. "Maybe I'm just imagining things," she thought. After hours of walking, the girls came across a sparkling river. Its water was so clear that they could see the smooth stones at the bottom, and it flowed gently under the shade of tall trees. The sound of the water was cool and inviting, and a soft breeze rustled the leaves around them. Abasi smiled at the sight. "This must be Idim Oku," she said, recalling stories she had heard from the elders in Uyo. The river was said to be forbidden, though no one ever explained why. The only thing she knew was that it was a sacred place where humans were not allowed to bathe. Abasi glanced at Ini, who shrugged. Neither of them understood the full story of the river, only that they should stay away from it. "We should keep going," Ini said softly, glancing at the sky. "We don't want to be late." But before they could continue, Mfon let out a sigh of relief and dropped the bag she was carrying. "Let's rest here for a while," she said, fanning herself with her hand. "The water looks so cool and beautiful. Why don't we refresh ourselves before we continue?" Abasi hesitated. "I don't know. I've heard the elders say this river is forbidden." Mfon laughed lightly, brushing off her concern. "Elders always have their stories to scare us. Look at the river. It's calm and clean. Do you really believe something bad will happen?" She walked closer to the water's edge, kneeling to scoop some of it into her hands. She splashed the cool water on her face and stood up smiling. See? Nothing happened to me. It's just a story. Abasi watched her maidservant carefully. Still, what if the stories are true? Muffon's voice softened, her tone sly and convincing. Abasi, think about it. You're about to meet your prince. Wouldn't it be wonderful to feel fresh and glowing when you see him? This water is so pure. It will bless you for your marriage. Don't you want to impress him? Abasi hesitated, torn between caution and Muffon's persuasive words. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to wash my face, she said, stepping closer to the river. Inni grabbed her sister's arm. Sister, no. We don't know the truth about this place. What if something bad happens? Please, let's just go. Abasi smiled gently at her younger sister, patting her hand. Don't worry, Inni. I'll only wash my face like Muffon did. It'll be fine. Muffon stepped in quickly. Exactly, Inni. Stop worrying so much. The river is safe. She knelt beside the water again, splashing more of it on her face to prove her point. See? It's just a river. Reluctantly, Inni let go of her sister's arm but stayed close by, her heart pounding with unease. She watched as Abasi knelt by the water and cupped her hands to splash it onto her face. The coolness of the water made her smile, and she couldn't deny how refreshing it felt. It feels so good, Abasi said, turning to look at Inni. Maybe I'll dip my feet in too. Mfon smiled triumphantly. Why not bathe in it completely? Imagine how beautiful and refreshed you'll feel for your prince. A little swim won't hurt. Abasi knelt by the riverbank, cupping the cool, clear water in her hands to wash her face. She splashed it gently on her cheeks, the refreshing sensation calming her after the long journey. Then she rinsed her feet, enjoying the soothing touch of the water. Mfon, standing nearby, watched closely, her mind racing with frustration. Why won't she go into the water? She thought. She had been certain that Abasi would listen to her and bathe in the river, making her plan easier. But now, Abasi's reluctance was ruining everything. You should go in fully, Abasi, Mufon said sweetly, forcing a smile. Just think about it. How amazing you'll feel after a proper bath. The river is so clear, and it will cleanse you of all the dust from the road. Trust me, the prince will notice your glow. Abasi shook her head, her voice firm yet polite. No, Mufon, I've already done enough. I've washed my face and feet, and that's all I need. The elders said this river is forbidden, and I don't want to disrespect their warnings. Mufon's smile faltered, and her eyes darkened for a moment. She quickly recovered, forcing a laugh. Oh, Abasi, you worry too much about old stories. Nothing will happen, I promise. Look at me. I've splashed the water on my face, and I'm fine. Abasi stood, brushing off her dress. Thank you, Mufon, but I've made my decision. We should get going now. Inni, come, let's leave this place. Mufon clenched her fists. She could feel her plan slipping away, and she couldn't let that happen. She glanced at Inni, who stood a little distance away, watching them nervously. Fine, Mufon said, her voice calm and low. You leave me no choice. Before Abasi could turn fully away, Mufon moved quickly. She lunged forward and shoved Abasi hard into the water. Ah! Abasi screamed, stumbling and splashing into the river. The sound of her cry echoed through the trees, and Inni froze in terror. The river, which had been calm and inviting moments ago, suddenly turned wild. The once gentle waters swirled violently, as though the river itself was alive. Abasi flailed, trying to stay afloat, but the current grew stronger, pulling her deeper into the middle of the river. Mufon, help me! Abasi cried out, her voice filled with panic. But Mufon stood at the edge, her face cold and unyielding. She watched as Abasi struggled, the river dragging her further and further away. Inni ran to the riverbank, tears streaming down her face. Abasi! Abasi! She screamed, reaching out as though she could pull her sister back, but there was nothing she could do. The water churned, its surface glowing faintly with an eerie light. From beneath the depths, shimmering forms began to rise, spirits of the river, their eyes glowing like tiny stars. They surrounded Abasi, their hands reaching for her. Her cries grew weaker as the spirits pulled her down, their voices whispering words that only she could hear. No, please. Abasi's voice faded as she disappeared beneath the surface. The river calmed instantly, its waters smooth and still, as though nothing had happened. For a moment there was silence. Ini collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Mfon knelt beside her, grabbing her arm tightly. "Stop crying," Mfon hissed. "Listen to me, Ini." Ini looked up at her, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "What did you do to her? What have you done to my sister?" "She's gone," Mfon said coldly. "And now you will do exactly as I say. If you tell anyone what happened here, I will make sure you disappear too. Do you understand me?" Ini's lips trembled, and she nodded slowly, too scared to speak. She was just a child, overwhelmed by what she had witnessed, and unsure of how to help her sister. Mfon stood, brushing off her dress as though nothing had happened. She reached into the bag she carried and took out a fine scarf and jewelry, handing them to Ini. "Take these," she said. "I am Abasi now. No one will know what happened here unless you open your mouth. If you do, you'll regret it." With that, Mfon adjusted her appearance, wrapping herself in Abasi's scarf and adorning herself with her jewelry. She looked at Ini one last time. "Clean your face and stop crying. We're going to meet the prince." Ini, trembling with fear and helplessness, followed Mfon as they left the river behind. Her heart ached for her sister, but she didn't know what to do. She was too young and too frightened to fight back. The road to Insit felt much longer for Ini, who followed Mfon with a heavy heart. Her steps dragged as though the weight of her grief was pulling her down. She kept glancing back in the direction of Idimoku, hoping somehow her sister would return. But the river had swallowed Abasi, leaving only memories behind. Mfon, on the other hand, walked with a sense of triumph. She adjusted Abasi's scarf over her head, making sure it hid her face enough to look mysterious, but not suspicious. Her heart raced with excitement. She had done it. She had taken Abasi's place. As they walked, Mfon's mind wandered back to her childhood. She remembered sitting at her grandmother's feet, listening to stories of the forbidden river. "Idimoku is a sacred place," her grandmother had said. "You can drink from it, cook with its water, even wash your clothes on its banks. But no one must ever bathe in it. If you do, the river spirits will claim you forever." Young Mfon had been fascinated. "Why, grandmother?" she had asked. Her grandmother's eyes had darkened as she leaned closer. "Because those who bathe in it are seen as greedy by the spirits. The river gives so much to the village, water, life, and beauty, but to take more than you need, to immerse yourself fully, is seen as an insult. The river will pull you down and transform you into one of its own." The story had stayed with her, buried in her mind until she became Abasi's maidservant. Mfon had watched Abasi's beauty and good fortune with growing resentment. The moment she learned of Abasi's engagement to Prince Etim, the jealousy became unbearable. That was when the memory of Idimoku came back to her. A perfect plan. She knew Abasi wouldn't suspect a thing. She also knew Ini, young and naive, wouldn't understand the danger of the river. Mfon had played her role well, waiting patiently for the right moment. And now, here she was, stepping into the life that should have been hers. As they approached Nzit, Mfon glanced back at Ini, who was dragging her feet. "Ini," she snapped, her voice sharp. "You'd better stop looking so sad. If anyone asks, you'll say I am your sister, Abasi. Do you hear me?" Ini nodded silently, too scared to argue. Her mind raised with confusion and grief. She couldn't believe her sister was gone, and she didn't understand why Mfon had done this terrible thing. But fear held her back from speaking out. When they reached Nsit, the village was alive with excitement. Drummers played lively beats, and women in colorful wrappers danced in celebration of the prince's bride. Villagers lined the path, clapping and cheering as Mfon and Ini arrived. Mfon smiled and waved, keeping her movements elegant, just as she had seen Abasi do. She soaked in the admiration of the crowd, reveling in their praise. This was what she had dreamed of, being treated like royalty. Prince Etim stood waiting at the entrance of his father's compound. He was tall and handsome, with a commanding presence that made him the pride of Nsit. His smile was warm, but as his eyes met Mfon's, a flicker of doubt crossed his face. He had heard stories of Abasi's beauty and grace, but something about this woman felt different. Although he had never seen her before now, her eyes didn't hold the same kindness he had imagined, and her smile seemed forced. Still, he brushed the thought aside. Perhaps she is nervous, he told himself. It's a big day for her. Mfon bowed her head slightly as she approached him. Prince Etim, she said softly, her voice trembling just enough to appear shy. I am honored to meet you. Etim nodded, smiling politely. Welcome to Nsit. I have been looking forward to this day. The crowd cheered as Etim led Mfon into the compound, where more festivities awaited. Inni trailed behind them, her face pale and her heart heavy. She could barely keep up with the noise and celebration around her. Everything felt wrong. Her sister should have been the one standing beside Prince Etim, not Mfon, but Inni didn't know what to do. And Mfon's threats still echoed in her mind. That night, as the village celebrated, Inni slipped away from the compound. She walked to a quiet spot under a tree, her tears falling freely. Abasi, she whispered, I don't know what to do. I'm so sorry. But her sister could not hear her, and for the first time, Inni felt completely alone. Every day since arriving in Nsit, Inni snuck away from the prince's compound and walked back toward Idimoku. She couldn't stop thinking about her sister, Abasi, and the terrible events that had unfolded. The villagers had no idea of the truth, and Mfon had slipped into her role as Abasi with alarming ease. Each time Inni sat by the riverbank, she whispered her sister's name, hoping against hope that Abasi would appear. But the river remained silent, its surface calm and unbothered, as though it had forgotten the life it had taken. Inni wept quietly, torn between her fear of Mfon's threats and her desire to tell someone, anyone, what had happened. Meanwhile, far below the sparkling waters of Idim Oku, Abasi awoke in a strange, shimmering world. Her body felt heavy, and her legs, she couldn't feel her legs. Panic surged through her as she looked down and realized the horrifying truth. Her legs were gone, replaced by a long, shimmering tail that gleamed like silver and emerald under the water's glow. No, this can't be, Abasi cried, twisting and turning as she tried to move. Her movements sent ripples through the water, and her cries echoed through the depths. She tried to swim to the surface, but her new form felt alien and uncontrollable. Instead, she sank back to the bottom, overwhelmed by fear and sorrow. Why are you crying, child? A soft but commanding voice asked. Abasi turned and saw a figure approaching her, moving gracefully through the water. It was a woman, but not quite human. Her skin glowed faintly, and her hair floated like dark waves around her. Her eyes, deep and wise, seemed to hold the secrets of the river itself. Who are you? Abasi stammered, her voice trembling. I am Nia, the guardian of Idimoku, the woman replied. I protect the sacredness of this river and all who dwell within it. And now, child, you are one of us. Abasi shook her head, her tears blending with the water around her. I don't want to be one of you. I don't belong here. Please let me go back to my family. Nia's expression softened, though her tone remained firm. You have been claimed by the river, Abasi. This is now your home. The stories you were told were not mere warnings. They were truths. Idim Oku is sacred, and those who immerse themselves in its waters must pay the price. The river gives life, but it also demands respect. To bathe in it is to insult the spirits who dwell here. I didn't know, Abasi whispered, her voice breaking. I didn't mean to offend the river. I was tricked, pushed in by someone I trusted. Please, isn't there a way to undo this? Nia sighed and swirled her hand through the water. The river does not concern itself with intent, only actions. What is done cannot be undone. You must accept your new life, Abasi. Here you will find peace and purpose, but only if you embrace what you have become. Abasi looked at her tail, the reality of her situation sinking in. How can I find peace when my family is out there thinking I'm gone? My sister, Inni, she must be heartbroken. She's so young. And my parents. They'll never know what happened to me. Please, Nia, there must be a way to return to them. Nia studied her for a long moment. Your love for your family is strong, she said. But the river's rules are absolute. You cannot return to your old life. However, the river is not without mercy. It may allow you glimpses of the world above. Your sister, perhaps, but only if you prove yourself worthy. How? Abasi asked, her voice filled with desperate hope. You must serve the river and its spirits, Nia explained. Protect its secrets, guide its waters, and honor its sacredness. Only then will you be allowed small moments to connect with the world you left behind. Abasi nodded slowly, though her heart ached with grief. I'll do it, she said. Whatever it takes to see my sister again. I will serve the river, but I will never stop hoping for a way back to my family. Nia's lips curved into a faint smile. You have strength, child. Perhaps more than you know, but tread carefully, for hope can be both a blessing and a burden. Come now. I will show you your new home. With that, Nia gestured for Abasi to follow her. Though her movements felt clumsy at first, Abasi began to adapt to her new form, her shimmering tail propelling her through the water. As she followed Nia deeper into the heart of Idim Oku, she resolved to find a way to reconnect with her family, no matter how long it took. Above the surface, Ini sat by the riverbank, staring into the water. Abasi, she whispered, her voice trembling. Where are you? Please, come back to me. But the river gave no reply. She had been sneaking away every day, driven by the hope that she might catch a glimpse of her sister, Abasi. The guilt of leaving her sister behind in the river weighed heavily on her young heart. She felt lost and powerless, unsure of how to help. As she sat quietly by the water, gazing into its depths, a faint ripple spread across the surface. Ini gasped and leaned forward. Slowly, a familiar face emerged. It was Abasi, her sister, her long hair floating gently in the water, her eyes filled with sorrow, but also relief at seeing Ini again. Abasi! Ini cried, her voice breaking. She fell to her knees at the edge of the river, her tears streaming freely. I've missed you so much. I thought I'd never see you again. Abasi reached out from the water, her shimmering mermaid tail glowing faintly in the fading light. Ini, she said softly, I've missed you too. I was so afraid I would never see you again. Ini reached for her sister's hand but stopped short, afraid to touch the water. What happened to you? She whispered. Why is this happening to us? This is all Mufon's fault. I should have stopped her. I should have done something. Abasi shook her head, her expression calm despite the pain in her heart. Ini, listen to me. This isn't your fault. You couldn't have stopped her. Mufon. She planned this. She knew what the river would do to me, and she made sure I ended up here. How could she be so cruel? Abasi nodded. She wanted to take my place, to steal my life. But Ini, you must promise me something. You must not tell anyone. Mufon is dangerous. If she sees you as a threat to her, she might hurt you too. Ini's voice wavered. But I can't just leave you here. You don't belong in this river. We have to tell someone. Maybe the prince— No, Abasi interrupted firmly. You can't tell him. There's nothing he can do. The river's curse is strong and no one from the surface can break it. I don't want you to get hurt trying to help me. I've accepted my fate, Ini, and you must too. Ini sobbed quietly, her heart breaking as she looked at her sister. I don't want to lose you, Abasi. You're all I have. You haven't lost me, Abasi said, her voice gentle but steady. I'm still here, and I will always be here in the river. Promise me you'll be strong, Ini. Visit me when you can, but don't let Mufon suspect anything. We'll find a way someday, but for now, you have to stay safe. Through her tears, Ini nodded. I promise. I'll be strong. I won't let Mufon hurt me or anyone else. Abasi smiled faintly, though her own heart ached. Good. That's my brave little sister. The two stayed there for a while, holding on to each other as best they could. When the sun disappeared completely and the sky turned dark, Abasi sank back into the water, and Ini quietly made her way back to Ensit. Back in the prince's compound, Prince Etim sat in his chambers, deep in thought. He had been looking forward to his marriage to the famed beauty, Abasi of Uyo. But something about her, no, about Mfon pretending to be Abasi, felt off. The stories he had heard about Abasi described her as sweet, kind, and gentle. But the woman who now claimed to be his bride was anything but. Mfon had grown increasingly bold and demanding since her arrival. She dismissed the servants rudely and seemed to care more about the gifts and attention she was receiving than the marriage itself. Etim had tried to excuse it as nerves, but the more time he spent with her, the more uneasy he felt. One evening, as he walked through the compound gardens, he overheard two servants whispering. "She's nothing like the stories," one said. "They said she was kind and humble, but she acts like a queen already." "I don't know," said the other. "Maybe it's just the stress of leaving her village. The prince should give her time." Etim frowned but said nothing, their words echoing his own doubts. He began to wonder if something was wrong, if perhaps this wasn't the same Abasi everyone had spoken of. That same evening, Ini overheard Etim speaking with his closest advisor. "Something isn't right," he said. "The woman I'm about to marry doesn't seem like the same person I was told about. Her temper, her greed. I don't understand it." Ini paused, her heart pounding. Should she tell him the truth? Could he help her sister? She wanted to speak up, but Abasi's warning replayed in her mind. Mfon was dangerous, and telling the prince might put everyone in danger. For now, she decided to stay silent, though the decision filled her with uncertainty. For days, Ini struggled with her promise to keep her sister's fate a secret. Every time she saw Mfon pretending to be Abasi, laughing and enjoying herself, her heart boiled with anger. Her sister, the real bride, was trapped in the river, while Mfon lived the life she had stolen. That night, as she sat in her room, Ini made a decision. "I can't stay silent anymore," she whispered to herself. "Abasi wouldn't want me to let this go on forever. I'll tell the prince everything. He has to know the truth." The next morning, Ini waited until the palace was quiet, then approached Prince Etim's chambers. She knocked hesitantly. When the prince opened the door, his brow furrowed with curiosity. "Ini? What is it?" "Your Highness," Ini said, her voice trembling but determined. "I need to speak with you. It's about my sister, about Abasi." Prince Etim nodded, sensing the urgency in her tone. He gestured for her to come in, closing the door behind them. "What's troubling you, Ini? Speak freely." Taking a deep breath, Ini began. "The woman you think is Abasi, she isn't my sister. She's our maidservant, Mfon. She betrayed my sister on the way here. She pushed Abasi into the forbidden river, Idim Oku, knowing what would happen. My sister, she's been turned into a mermaid." Etim's eyes widened in shock. "What are you saying? That woman isn't Abasi. And your sister, she's still alive," Ini said quickly, her voice filled with both sorrow and hope. "She's in the river, trapped there because of Mfon's trickery. Abasi told me not to say anything because she was afraid Mfon might harm me too, but I can't keep quiet anymore." Etim stared at her, his mind racing. Everything Ini said matched his growing doubts about Abasi. The woman he was set to marry had none of the qualities he had heard about. Could it really be true? Was the woman he was about to wed an imposter? "Ini," he said gently, "I believe you, but this is a serious accusation. If this is true, we must act carefully. Can you prove it?" "Yes," Ini said confidently, "but you'll have to follow me to Idimoku. My sister can't leave the river, but you can see her for yourself. Please, Your Highness, come with me. But we must go secretly. No one can know." Prince Etim, touched by Ini's courage, nodded. "Very well. I will go with you." That evening, just as the sun was setting, Ini and Prince Etim slipped out of the palace unnoticed. They made their way to Idim Oku, the river glimmering faintly under the moonlight. Ini knelt by the water's edge, calling softly. "Abasi, it's me, Ini. Please come." For a moment the river remained still. Then the water began to ripple, and Abasi's form emerged from the depths. Her tail shimmered like liquid silver, and her face was filled with sadness and hope as she saw Ini and the prince standing beside her. "Abasi," Etim whispered, his voice filled with wonder and disbelief. He took a step closer, his heart aching at the sight of the beautiful woman before him, her kindness evident even in her sorrowful gaze. "Your Highness," Abasi said softly, her voice trembling, "Ini shouldn't have brought you here. It's not safe." "No," Etim said firmly. "You are my bride, the one I was meant to marry. I won't leave you here, not like this. Ini was brave to tell me the truth, and now that I know, I will do everything I can to save you." Abasi shook her head sadly. "There is nothing you can do. The river's curse is unbreakable." Etim turned to Ini. The prince and Ini returned to the palace late that night, then sought the oracle the next morning. The oracle was an old, wise man named Akpan, known for his deep knowledge of the spiritual world. When they arrived at his hut, Akpan greeted them with a knowing smile. "I have been expecting you," he said, his voice low and mysterious. "The river has whispered its secrets to me." Etim stepped forward. "Then you know what happened to Abasi?" "Yes," Akpan said. "Her heart is pure, and her love for her family shines brightly even from beneath the water. But the betrayal she suffered was cruel and deliberate. Mufon tricked her into entering the river, knowing what would happen. It was a selfish act of jealousy and greed." "Is there a way to save her?" Etim asked urgently. Akpan's expression turned grave. "There is a way, but it will not be easy." "Please, what can we do?" Ini asked. Akpan nodded gravely. "There is a way, but it is fraught with risk. The spirits of Idim Oku are powerful and do not easily release what they claim. Yet there is a cleansing ritual that can be performed, a chance to draw Abasi from the river and break the curse upon her." "What must we do?" Etim asked, his voice filled with resolve. Akpan leaned forward, his voice taking on a rhythmic tone as though reciting ancient knowledge. "You must prepare 7 sacred drums. These drums will call her spirit from the water. You must beat them in harmony, creating a rhythm that speaks of love, innocence, and redemption. When she emerges, you will take her and immerse her fully into a cleansing bath prepared by the river's waters." Ini's heart quickened with hope, but she noticed Akpan's face darken as he continued. "Understand this," Akpan said. "The river spirits will decide her fate. If her heart is as pure as the river's flow, they may grant her freedom. But if they deem her unworthy, she will be consumed forever, taken fully into their world. There is no second chance." Ini gasped, her small hands trembling. "But Abasi has a kind heart. The spirits must see that. She doesn't deserve this." Akpan's gaze softened as he looked at the young girl. "The spirits are ancient and wise, child. They will see her truth, but you must be prepared for any outcome. Faith and love will guide you." Prince Etim stepped forward, his expression resolute. "We will do it. Whatever it takes, we will give her this chance." Akpan nodded approvingly. "Then go and prepare the 7 drums. Gather pure water from the river to make the cleansing bath. When the time comes, I will be there to oversee the ritual." Back at the palace, the prince wasted no time. He gathered his closest attendants and gave them instructions to prepare the drums and the other items needed for the ritual, and preparations began in secret. Only those Etim trusted completely were told of the plan, for the prince knew the danger of word reaching Mufon. Meanwhile, Mufon remained blissfully unaware of what was unfolding. She lounged in the prince's chambers, ordering servants about and reveling in the attention she received as the bride-to-be. The maids whispered about her rude and arrogant demeanor, which was so unlike the stories they had heard of the real Abasi, but none dared speak against her openly. Mufon had grown bold, even dismissing some of the palace servants for failing to meet her impossible demands. "Fools," she muttered, as she surveyed the fine jewelry and fabrics meant for the wedding. "All of this should have been mine long ago." As she enjoyed her ill-gotten status, Ini moved quietly through the palace, helping with the preparations. Her heart ached for her sister, but she found strength in knowing they were working to save her. The drums were crafted from the finest materials, each one blessed by the village elders. The water for the cleansing bath was drawn directly from Idim Oku and carefully carried in sacred pots to avoid offending the spirits. The preparations took several days, during which Prince Etim checked every detail personally, ensuring that nothing was left to chance. But before that, he knew they needed to do something else, someone he needed to take care of. Mfon. The grand royal feast was underway in the palace of Inseet. The courtyard was filled with laughter and music as villagers gathered to celebrate the upcoming wedding of Prince Etim and the woman they believed to be Abasi. Mfon, dressed in elegant robes and adorned with gold jewelry, sat proudly beside the prince, basking in the attention. But Prince Etim's face was somber. His heart was heavy with the truth he had uncovered. It was time to end this deception. As the feast reached its height, the prince stood, raising his hand to silence the crowd. The drums stopped, and the murmurs of the guests faded into silence. All eyes turned to Etim as he addressed the gathering. "My people," he began, his voice firm and clear. "Today, I must speak of a betrayal that has shocked and angered me. The woman you see before you is not the one I was meant to marry. She is not Abasi of Uyo." The crowd gasped, and Mfon's eyes widened in panic. She quickly forced a smile, trying to appear calm. "Your Highness," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "What are you saying? I am your bride, Abasi." Prince Etim ignored her and turned to the elders, including his father, the king. "This woman is a fraud. She is not Abasi, but her maidservant, Mfon, who betrayed her mistress on the journey here. She pushed Abasi into the forbidden river, Idim Oku, knowing its curse. Mfon then took her place, deceiving us all." Mfon rose to her feet, her voice rising with desperation. "That's a lie. I am Abasi. This girl, Ini, has filled your head with nonsense. She's just a child." But Etim was ready. "Enough lies," he declared. He gestured to Ini, who stepped forward, clutching her hands nervously. "Ini has told me everything, and I have seen the truth with my own eyes. The real Abasi still lives, trapped by the river's curse. Mfon, your deceit ends today." The elders murmured among themselves, their faces filled with shock and anger. The king's voice boomed over the crowd. "Is this true, Mfon? Have you betrayed your mistress and lied to this court?" Mfon stammered, her confidence crumbling under the weight of their stares. I didn't. I mean, she deserved it," she finally shouted, her voice bitter. "Why should she have everything? Her beauty, her kindness, the prince, all of it. I was always in her shadow. It wasn't fair." The room erupted into murmurs of outrage. The king's expression hardened, and he raised his hand for silence. "Mfon, you have committed a grave crime, betraying your mistress, deceiving this court, and disrespecting the sacredness of Idim Oku. For your actions, you are hereby banished from this land, never to return." Mfon collapsed to the ground, wailing and pleading, but the guards quickly escorted her out of the palace, her cries echoing through the hall. With Mfon exposed, Prince Etim turned to the elders and the king. "Now we must right this wrong. Abasi must be freed from the river's curse. I ask for your blessing to perform the cleansing ritual." The elders nodded solemnly, and the king gave his approval. "Go, my son. Save the woman who was meant to be your bride." That night, under the light of the full moon, Prince Etim and Ini returned to Idim Oku, bringing the 7 drums and the sacred water prepared for the cleansing ritual. As they stood at the river's edge, Ini called softly, "Abasi, it's us. Please come." The water rippled, and Abasi emerged, her silver tail shimmering in the moonlight. Her face was filled with both hope and fear. "You shouldn't have come," she said, her voice trembling. "It's too dangerous." "We couldn't leave you here," Etim said gently. "We're going to save you. Please trust us." Nia, the guardian of Idim Oku, appeared beside Abasi, her form glowing faintly. She regarded Etim and Ini with curiosity. "Why do you risk so much for her?" she asked. "She is my sister," Ini said firmly, tears in her eyes. "I love her, and I can't let her stay here." "She is my bride," Etim added. "Her kindness and purity are unmatched, and she deserves to be free." Naya's expression softened. Your sincerity moves me, but the ritual is not without risk. If her heart is truly pure, she will be freed, but if the spirits find her unworthy, she will be taken by the river forever. Abasi looked at Etim and Ini, her voice steady despite her fear. I'm ready. Let's do it. The ritual began. The drummers beat the sacred drums in perfect harmony, their rhythm echoing through the still night. Etim and Ini carried Abasi to the first drum of water, gently lowering her into it. As the water touched her, it glowed faintly, and Abasi felt warmth spreading through her body. They repeated the process with each drum, moving her from one to the next. With each immersion, the glow around her grew stronger. As they reached the seventh drum, Nia appeared again, her eyes glowing with approval. The spirits have seen her heart, she said. Her love for her family, her kindness, and her courage have proven her worthy. The curse is lifted. Etim and Ini dipped Abasi into the seventh drum. As she emerged, her tail began to dissolve, replaced by her legs. Tears streamed down her face as she realized she was human once more. She embraced Ini tightly, both of them sobbing with relief. Etim stepped forward, taking Abasi's hands in his. You've endured so much, he said softly. Your strength and love inspire me. I am honored to call you my bride, Abasi. Abasi smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude and love. Thank you, Your Highness. I owe everything to you and my sister. The grand wedding of Abasi and Prince Etim was celebrated with unmatched joy and splendor in both Uyo and Insit. The two villages came together, their songs and laughter echoing through the hills. The elders declared it a union blessed by the gods, a sign of peace and unity between the two lands. Abasi, radiant and smiling, stood beside Etim, her heart filled with gratitude. Dressed in a shimmering gold and white wrapper adorned with beads, she looked every bit the bride she was meant to be. As she exchanged vows with Etim, her eyes glistened with tears, not of sadness but of joy and relief that her ordeal was over. The celebration lasted for days with feasting, dancing, and storytelling. Villagers marveled at Abasi's strength and beauty, unaware of the trials she had endured. Etim, proud and in love, promised to cherish her forever. Far away from the festivities, Mfong wandered alone, her banishment from Insit and Uyo weighing heavily on her shoulders. Stripped of her false glory, she roamed from village to village, shunned and despised wherever she went. Her jealousy and greed had left her with nothing, and she lived in regret, haunted by the memory of her betrayal. The villagers often spoke of her as a cautionary tale to young ones, a reminder of the consequences of envy and selfishness. Beware of jealousy, the elders would say. It consumes you and leaves you with nothing. Ini was honored before the entire assembly. The king himself called her forward, speaking of her bravery and loyalty. Without Ini's courage and determination, we would not be celebrating this union today, he said. The crowd erupted into applause as Ini blushed, overwhelmed by the attention. Abasi embraced her tightly, whispering, I could not have done this without you, Ini. You are my hero. Ini smiled, her heart swelling with pride. Though she was still young, she had proven her strength and earned the respect of two villages. After the celebrations, Abasi and Etim sat together under a canopy of stars. Abasi turned to Etim. This journey has taught me so much, she said. I have learned to never take my family for granted, and I will cherish every moment with those I love. Truth, love, and loyalty are what hold us together, and I promise to always honor those values. Etim took her hand, his voice steady and warm. We have all learned from this, Abasi. Your strength and kindness have touched us all. Together, we will build a life of love and truth. A few days after the wedding, Abasi and Etim returned to Idimoku, accompanied by Ini. They knelt by the riverbank, the place where Abasi's life had been forever changed. Nia, Abasi called softly. We have come to thank you. The river rippled gently, and Nia, the guardian spirit, appeared, her form glowing faintly in the water. You have done well, child, she said, her voice melodic and calm. Your heart has proven its worth, and your love for your family has brought you back to the surface. Cherish this second chance. We will never forget your kindness, Abasi said. Thank you for giving me a chance to return to my family. Nia smiled faintly. Remember, the river is sacred. Honor its rules, and it will always protect you. Go now, and live your life with the love and truth you have shown. The three of them bowed in respect before leaving, the river's calm waters shimmering behind them. Abasi and Atim lived happily, their bond growing stronger with each passing year. Ini remained a beloved sister, her bravery and loyalty never forgotten. And though Mafon's fate served as a warning, it was also a lesson in forgiveness, as Abasi chose to move forward without bitterness, cherishing the love that had brought her home.